But it's very beautiful what you said. And actually, there's a very beautiful quote. I think you just mentioned it of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where let me try and find it, where he says, Bhakti is the principle of Bhakti. It moves by nature. It moves through sympathetic hearts, like from one heart to another. That is how, that is the movement of Bhakti. It moves from one heart to another in this. I can't find it. And I really like something. Welcome everyone. We've had an impromptu beginning. This is our Thursday online sangha. Um, so nice to see Banavi. Wow, that's a rare treat. Dhanyavad. But I really appreciated once something. Oh, here it is. I found the quote of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says, Bhakti is a principle which comes from soul to soul, and like electricity or magnetism in gross matter, it conducts itself from one congenial soul to another. I'll read it one more time. Bhakti is a principle which comes from soul to soul, and like electricity or magnetism in gross matter, it conducts itself from one congenial soul to another. There was one comment of our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, that really gave me so much insight, and I think it's published in Revealed Truth. And he says there that, we always speak about the importance of good association, right? This is sometimes discussed as being the number one most important aspect or factor in a progressive life of devotion, right? So we use that so much. Sadhu Sangha, good association. These are like major buzzwords within our community and our line of practice and teachings. But then our Gurudev, he made this very important point. And then we also talk about the importance of not only good association but higher association, right? And then our Gurudev, he made this very good point once, saying that we need good association, we need higher association, but on top of that, that person whom we're associating with needs to have affection for us, right? They need to actually have some personal feeling for us, because there may be someone, we look at them, we think, oh, they're such great devotees, I want to have their association, I can learn so much from them. But then we may experience practically that they're not very interested in us. And I remember in my early days in India, I was just like a young kid when I went to live in India, and I was so fortunate to be surrounded by so many, wonderful senior Vaishnavas. No, but I remember, some of them would be interested and give me so much care and attention. And there were others who I tried hard, but for whatever reason, they weren't very interested in me. They didn't want to give me any attention. And so that when Gurudev made that comment, it really hit home to me, that it's almost like in this quote of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's almost like there's a type of chemistry that takes place when there's the link of affection, right? When there's the link of love and affection. And so, yes, we need good association. We need the association of senior Vaishnavas and so on. But we need that those people have some personal feeling for us, right? Personal care, take some personal interest in us, right? And that's when this chemistry, when will take place. There's some specific goodwill, right, that is coming towards us from that Vaishnava. And so we're very fortunate, if we can find that type of association. There's also one line in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu coming from Rupa Goswami that Srila Sridhar Maharaj quotes sometimes. It's how does it go? Sajatiya Yashaye Snigde Sadhu Sangha Satovrite, which translates more or less as the type of association that we want is that which literally it says something like, who has the same type of affection for the Lord, right? Has the same mood of affection for the Lord. and a little bit higher, a little bit senior to ourselves. That is the ideal type of association. Same principle, same conception, same mood, also mood, and somewhat superior, higher than ourselves. And our Gurudev, he also made the point, an interesting point, that sometimes the best association for us may not be too high, know? But it may be, it's like, for example, if you're a kindergarten student and you go, you spend time with a PhD professor, how much can you actually get, because there's so many levels above you, like the distance is too great, you won't be able to get very much. But if you're in kindergarten and let's say you get the association of someone in grade two, a couple steps ahead of you, then you can
Really?
get something from
I
that,
was going to
right?
listen to things now.
Oh, maybe we need to mute someone. Okay. Wow, such a nice turnout today. Some unexpected names joining us today. Angel, we haven't had you for a while. And we're honored to have Suvasni Didi with us, Krishnandrani, Axel's with us, Sadiv is with us, Sada Siromani, and Banavi, Sulalita, Harini, Divyashari Didi. We're honored to have you. Nanda Krishna who's hosting. So good to be with you all. So yes, this was another interesting point that our Gurudev made, that Dandavat Suvasani Didi.
Dandavats, Didi, dandavats.
I was remembering you today with my father, just that you have this quality that, you'll never hear Suvasini say a single bad word about anyone.
Oh,
Like,
please don't talk about me.
no, but it's really true, And I've also seen that anyone who asks her for help, she will help them. Even I've seen persons of some questionable activity or, character, they ask her for help. She will give them some help, She has that type of Vaishnava quality. So I always think of you, Suvasini Didi. Really, it's such a beautiful example.
Oh,
Genuine
yeah,
Vaishnava mood. Yeah.
I'm honored, Didi. Actually, I just joined, and when you're talking about a very beautiful point, you were talking, and the about the association. Um, it's really important and very comforting, actually. Yeah, wonderful.
Do you want to add any more words on that topic?
No, actually, what you said is so perfect. Actually, it is really important for everyone. It is not that, the good association and who has that heart feeling towards us. And that was like really a beautiful thing, for us to remember. And yeah, what Gurudev said, it is really a very, very good point. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Devi. Yeah. Mm. Always nice to hear your beautiful insights and comments. It's yeah.
Thank you, Didi. And Tunga Rasa saying that she's also experienced, this situation. Yeah. This is one thing I appreciate so much about Srila Govinda Maharaj's presentation of Krishna consciousness. He was always so practical, and with common sense in the way that he would present things, very applicable, very relatable. We're very fortunate we could hear that from His Divine Grace. So thank you, Devi Shai Didi, for bringing the topic up. We're also very honored to have you with us. Always very deep insights in Krishna consciousness. All right. Well, we started off a little spontaneously. I don't know if anyone wants to bring up another topic for our meeting today. And welcome Somya Sham, Vijayananda Prabhu, also with us today. Looks like they're in the car. All right. Well, if no one has anything to bring up, I do still have a list that I'm working through from some of our friends in London. Almost finished. So the last question we covered was, what does Krishna, no, no, sorry, how important is to serve Krishna's devotees? That we discussed that last week. How important is it to serve Krishna's devotees? Then the next question here, this is a kind of a fun one, I guess you could say. What does Krishna think of us when we are serving him? I see Suhasini laughing. Maybe we don't want to know the answer to that one. What does Krishna think of us? What does he have in mind when we are serving him and making prayers to him? Oh, Gangalila's asking to send prayers. That's right, Gangalila. She just went through a major operation, the second within like a 2-month period, hip replacement. So we're all sending you our love and prayers. Very, very difficult moment for you, Leela. Right. And Tungarasa says, could this situation arise because of our own prejudices? Could you elaborate on that? What are you referring to, Tungarasa? Are you there, Tungarasa? Okay, well, maybe we'll come back to her later. I don't quite follow her question. So this question was, what does Krishna think of us when we are serving him, offering prayers to him? What does he have in mind? Well, we have this very beautiful book title our Gurudev appreciated so much, Loving Search for the Lost Servant. Loving Search for the Lost Servant. And there are some very beautiful expressions of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and there's an introduction in the beginning taken from a talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and it's like Srila Sridhar Maharaj is presenting this case for the fact that the Lord is engaged in a loving search for us, right? And he mentions his appearance as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he is, in a sense, hunting after the fallen souls of this world, wanting to help them, even if they don't want to be helped, right? And there's one beautiful expression there where Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, he says that, no matter how complete Krishna is in himself, still he feels some pangs of separation for all of his separated parts, for all the souls who have turned away from him. Inconceivably, right? Although he has everything, he is complete. No, and of course he is surrounded by unlimited numbers of exalted souls who love and worship and adore him unlimitedly. Despite all that, Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, inconceivably, he feels some pangs of separation for each and every one of us, and he has this pastime of coming into this world, right? In so many different forms, different avatars, trying to bring us back home, right? Back home, back to Godhead, as Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada expressed. And then, of course, we hear that beautiful pastime that's described in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and there's that painting, right? That beautiful painting depicting the moment when Gopakumar, right, enters Vrindavan. And, Gopakumar's been on this, huge journey, traveling through so many different planes of existence. And everywhere he goes, he's not quite satisfied. And finally, he reaches Goloka Vrindavan, and we hear when he enters Vrindavan for the first time, Krishna drops everything and runs to him and embraces him, And we hear that, Krishna actually faints in ecstasy, right? When he goes to embrace Gopakumar for the first time, he actually faints in ecstasy. And meanwhile, Krishna's cowherd friends, his companions, they're around, they're surrounding, and they're very puzzled. Who is this newcomer? Who is this new boy? You know, how is it we don't know who he is, and yet Krishna has so much love for him? What's going on? And then afterwards, they're taking prasad together, and so this is given as an example, to illustrate how much love we can't actually imagine. It's not within the scope of our comprehension to begin to understand how much love Krishna has for us. It is inconceivable for us. And so I would say in our present condition, in many ways, Krishna is waiting for us, right? Krishna is waiting for us. And now we are not able to offer pure service, to offer pure prayer, but we're trying, because, we are covered by so many layers of our minds, intellect, ego, right? We're not able to offer, our pure self, pure heart to Krishna, and everything is mixed, our hearts and are mixed. Our consciousness is mixed. So we're not able to directly offer, or purely offer, ourselves to Krishna. But Krishna is very patient, he's waiting for us. And of course we have, he is given, the whole system of the Vedas, the whole line of revealed truth, the whole line of great saints who come to this world age after age. This whole arrangement is for us, to help us. And he himself is personally coming also, as we mentioned. I like that line in that song that we sing in the mornings, right? Ami in Jeev Jago, this beautiful song. Ami bina bandhu ar keache tomada, right? It's such a beautiful line. Ami bina bandhu ar keache. Other than me, who is your friend, right? I am your best friend. This is what Krishna is saying here. I am your best friend. Who can love you more than I can love you? you know. So, how much love is there for us, right? So he's waiting for us, we are in the stage of purification, right? We are students, but we know that there is so much waiting for us, right? We have an inheritance that our gurus have left for us, and that inheritance is our relationship with Krishna and his associates. Another thing to remember, is that, when we say Krishna, we're always saying Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. But actually, it's a little more complex than that, right? As Srila Sridhar Maharaj has said, Krishna means a whole system, means Krishna and his group, right? Krishna and his entourage. We're not entering exclusively into a direct relationship with Krishna, but we're entering into a relationship with his family in a sense. We're being given the opportunity to have a place as one of Krishna's family members, to be a part of that serving group. And actually, it's an intricate system, for lack of a better word, right? And I mean, I don't know how deep and specific we want to go into this topic, but in that highest abode of Goloka Vrindavan, there are actually so many different serving groups, right? Serving in different moods, and there's a unique system of service, that is taking place within each of those groups, and this, the very specific line of service that our gurus have embraced, is that of Sri Rupa, right? Under Sri Lalita Devi. Lalita Devi is one of the principal, you know, Ashta Sakis, serving Krishna, and then Sri Rupa, so anyway, we don't want to go too much into all of that, but suffice to say, there's so much waiting for us. And Krishna, we can say that our gurus and the Lord, they are patiently waiting for us. That's what I would say. If someone's asking, as they are here, what is Krishna thinking when we are serving him? He is patiently waiting for us. I don't actually know what exactly, it was an anonymously submitted question. I don't know exactly what was the slant on the question. Another consideration is perhaps this is what they were thinking. How can Krishna have the arrogance to to receive our service? I don't know if that's what they were thinking. And the answer to that is that that's his constitutional nature. It is, it's not in this world, we live in a world of exploitation, right? And then so when we think of, so when we hear these, they can be trigger words for some people, service, hierarchy, superiority, those things can be a little alarming in this world because it is a world of exploitation. But when it comes to serving Krishna, it is actually the natural state of things, right? As it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jiver Srupa Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das, right? This is the constitutional nature of everyone in existence to be an eternal servant of Krishna. That is as the grass is green and the sky is blue, as water is wet and fire burns, so the nature of every jiva soul is to serve and love Krishna. It is a very natural, innate, intrinsic thing that we all have. It is our divine property. Our Gurudev mentioned that everyone has that divine property of service to Krishna, right? And so Krishna is actually the only person in existence who's constitutionally equipped to enjoy, right? That's why we get frustrated in this world, because we're in this topsy-turvy state of things, right? Where in a sense, we are identifying as Krishna, right? Where we are trying to live and act and conceive of ourselves as the Purusha, right? This is the Sanskrit term, the enjoyer. But we're always frustrated because it's just not who we are. We're identifying with something that does not reflect who we actually are. So we're always limited, frustrated by our faulty attempts to enjoy in this world. But our enjoyment actually comes through serving, right? And so we also, through giving enjoyment, our enjoyment comes through supplying enjoyment, right? And so in Chaitanya Charitamrita, these terms are mentioned of ashray and vishoy, right? That these technical terms, ashray and vishoy, right? Vishoy is Krishna, means the enjoyer. And ashray means one who's offering enjoyment. In other words, the devotee. And so actually, when Krishna chooses to appear as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wants to experience the position of the ashray, of the one who is offering service, who's offering enjoyment. So it is a matter of coming into harmony with our true nature and the true nature of the environment. And in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Sridhar Maharaj would point out, right, or he mentioned in this very charming way, in regards to this verse, Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru, where Krishna is saying very explicitly, serve me, love me, be my devotee, remember me, And Srila Sridhar Maharaj says how shamelessly Krishna is expressing himself here. Like he has no shyness about saying, everyone serve me. But why is that so? How can he say such a thing? Because he knows that that is what is best for us. Just like the relationship between a parent and a child. If the parent says to the child, listen to me, follow me, that won't be taken as arrogance. But that is what is harmonious in that relationship. That is what is the actual nature of the relationship for the child to learn from the parent, right? And so in a similar way, Krishna is expressing himself and advising us in Bhagavad Gita, love me, serve me, that will be good for you. And he doesn't need anything, as we said. But this is his Leela in a sense, that he feels some deficiency in love. And that he wants to, that is also his nature, that he wants to exchange love with us. And he has an unlimited appetite and capacity for that, you know. Whereas we may be sometimes we may experience moments where we feel, we're surrounded by too many people want attention from us. A parent especially may feel they have too many children, they can't give them enough love, right? But Krishna doesn't have that problem. Krishna has unlimited capacity to fulfill us all to an unlimited degree, far beyond what we are capable of receiving, right? And this is also one reason why we do not directly approach Krishna, because we're not constitutionally equipped for that either, right? We're always like, third or fourth level removed, right? There's Krishna, then his direct servitor group, right? Nanda, Jashoda, Radharani, and so on, right? In each of the rasas, in each of the relationships with Krishna, there's the first rank servitor group, and they are constitutionally equipped to directly interact with Krishna. But we are not so, right? It is just like with the sun. If we are too close to the sun, we'll burn up. you know we have to be, but if we're at a particular distance, we can blossom under the sun. We'll be nourished by the sun, right? And then of course this is reflected in our mat logo that our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj designed, showing the disciples represented by the lotus flower, in the, blossoming under the Krishna sun in the shelter of the water of Shri Guru, right? And so we always embrace the connection of Guru and Vaishnava, and through them, we can have a genuine connection with Krishna. So I think those are my thoughts on that question. I like that. It's a refreshing, different question. Does anyone else want to add any thoughts to that, what we just discussed, or bring up another topic? Welcome, James, who just joined us. And Anju has mentioned in the chat that everyone is able to serve Krishna. Nobody is too low to serve Krishna. Krishna embraces all. Let's see. You have one more question here. Okay, Tunga Rasa, I think, has just elaborated on her previous point. The situation you described at the beginning of our meeting, when devotees ignore us and show no affection. And this was related to, let's see, she had another. Could this situation arise because of our own prejudices? Okay. Well, so at the beginning, for those who came a little later, we were discussing this point that, and actually I had some discussion along these lines with James recently too, that we need association. This is commonly understood, but we also need association that we need the association of persons who are not only qualified, but also have some personal care for us, have affection for us. And, there needs to be some resonance there. And I mentioned, how sometimes we may be frustrated. We may have had experiences where, We see someone is very qualified, we can gain so much from them, but they're not interested. They don't care about us, for whatever reason. Um, and then Tungarasa saying, could this situation arise because of our own prejudices? And then she says, the situation you described at the beginning of our meeting when devotees ignore us and show no affection. That comment is still a little unclear to me. But certainly, we have to try and adjust ourselves and try to take every situation as a learning opportunity, right? And so, for example, if we do have that type of experience where we feel rejected in some way, we try to approach some Vaishnava to have some, affectionate link, to learn from them and so on. But they close the door on us, which I, by the way, have specifically experienced, but we won't mention any names. Then, we will try to adjust ourselves, we can think, oh, we can take this as an opportunity for humility, right? That is a very humbling experience, and we can pray to Krishna, please show me what is the right association for me. Please reveal to me the association that is appropriate for me. And we can embrace our humble position, right? Why should we think that everyone will run to help us? Why should we think that we are qualified even? And I think we may have discussed this recently too, that our Gurudev mentioned this point. Maybe last week we even discussed it, that we're often thinking, oh, I want good association, but we also have to think, am I good association? Am I worthy? Am I worthy of good association? Another thing which I've experienced in my practicing life is that at different stages of my development, there were different Vaishnavas who were there to help me. So for example, when I was a little more raw, I found there were those who were less patient, to help me. But then those same persons who were unfriendly with me at an earlier stage later on became my very good friends. When they felt I was at a little more of a mature level, and they could relate with me at a different level, and they became my good friends, and I could learn from them at a different level of education, you could say. That's another thing. So we can be open, to that type of possibility. So what was I saying just now? Oh yes, we will try to adjust ourselves always, and think we will try to see how we can correct ourselves. And ultimately, we are always chatak birds, right? Rupa Goswami speaks about the chatak bird that is always waiting for the fresh rainwater from above, right? There's that beautiful verse, Vidalchaya Mayi Dandam Dina Bandhu Dayamba, right? Whether the rain cloud is giving fresh rain or giving no rain or giving too much rain, that chatak bird is always singing the glories of the rain cloud. So we're always in that posture of humble waiting, right? We and hopeful, humble, hopeful waiting. We are always expectant to receive the mercy of the Lord. We're always hopeful to receive the mercy of the Lord. And we will try to see that Krishna is always trying to help us, right? As we were remembering that beautiful line, Ami Bina Bandhuar Kya Chetomar. Who is your friend other than myself? I'm your best friend. And this is faith. This is Shraddha, to have that type of conviction in my heart, in our heart, that Krishna is there for me. Krishna wants to help me, no matter how trying the circumstances may be, right? We just celebrated earlier this week the appearance of Nrsimhadev, right? I mean, for goodness sake, talk about trials and tribulations, what did Prahlad Maharaj go through? My goodness, what a glorious example. And, and in no moment did Prahlad say, like, come on, Vishnu, why are you treating me like this? I'm your devotee. Why are you like, come on, what are you doing to me? This is not fair. Prahlad did not say that at any moment, but he remained very staunch in his faith that, oh, my Lord is with me. And with that type of faith, he was able to overcome everything, and nothing could harm him. Right. And then there's that decisive moment, right, when his wicked father, Hiranyakashipu, is challenging him in frustration. Oh, you say your God is everywhere. Is he in this pillar? Yes, he's in this pillar. Right. And then I like Srila Sridhar Maharaj's comment on that very much. He says that, Prahlad's calculation of the environment proved to be correct. Right. He was calculating on the basis of more subtle principles, but reflecting the true nature of things, right? And his father is calculating on the basis of an objective, superficial calculation of the nature of things, but that proved to be wrong, right? And so, despite, not seeing this invisible Lord, Prahlad had this staunch faith. And then Nrsingadev, he is forced to act. His hand is forced because he must protect his devotee. And he has to there, and then there's a beautiful verse, Satyam Vidatam Nija Britya Bhashitam. Maybe Savasti remembers that whole verse. So beautiful, saying that in order to prove that the statement of his devotee was true, he was forced to act, right? He had to come, because of Prahlad's firm faith in him. Then Nrsingadev was compelled to appear and to demonstrate the truth of his statement. So we're trying to move more and more towards making our calculation on that side, right? On the upper side, on the subtle, invisible side. We are trying to move towards that. You know, as our Gurudev used to say, we are not approaching dead matter. Krishna is not just some statue trapped on a throne on our altar. You know, that's not, why do we want to limit this to that? But we are approaching the infinite, and we are approaching infinite possibility also. That's also a part of Shraddha, part of faith. Right? And so we need to try to see with that type of broad vision. Right? And so, our Gurudev he liked to say, we should not be hopeless, no matter what situation we face, no matter how many doors may be closed on us. We will see the hand of Krishna, the affectionate. What's that line of Srila Sridhar Maharaj also talking about Prahlad Maharaj, that despite all the trouble he faced, he always saw the smiling face of Krishna, behind the screen. And Krishna is always eager and waiting for our service. So we want to try to see with this broad and magnanimous and hopeful view every situation that comes to us. The bitterness only lies in our own ego, right? The rub is only there in our own ego, right? But when that is cleared, we will see only sweetness everywhere. We will experience sweetness everywhere. So, I'm glad, Tungarasa, that very nice topics you brought up. So I suppose, yes, our own prejudice, that I suppose that does, I didn't quite understand your question, but in attempting to answer it, now I understand it. Yes, our own prejudice. Ultimately, it all comes down to that, right? Sometimes I remember Jamuna Priya, who was our Gurudev's secretary for some time. I visited her about 2 years ago in Northern California, and she told me And it was a very nice opportunity, to hear many stories with our Guru Dev. But there was one thing she said I liked very much, and she said that that she observed with our Guru Dev that that sometimes there would be persons who were unfriendly to him, right? And there was one person in particular, and in fact, that person, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, had even personally wanted to leave the Mat, our temple in West Bengal, in Navadvip. Srila Sridhar Maharaj himself was unhappy with this person and requested them to leave the temple. But our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, so generous, he requested that he was able to stay, and so took some level of responsibility in that way for him. But that person was always making some trouble for our Gurudev, you know, every now and again would go a little anti, disagreeing, opposing different opinions or actions of our Gurudev. And so we were discussing this one day, and I was asking Jamuna, like, how did our Gurudev deal with that? What was his response? And because Srila Maharaj had wanted to remove him. Our Gurudev was merciful and kept him, but he ended up causing trouble for our Gurudev. So I'm like, so how did our Gurudev, like, how did he see this? How did he deal with this? And you know what she told me? She said, he was amused. It was entertaining for him. It was entertaining for him, to see how this person would go up against him and make some trouble for him, kind of like spiced things up a bit, made things a little more interesting, that, and I was so impressed by that. And if now it's hitting me now, this is the response of someone who has zero ego, you know. It's just like, for example, if you're watching some film, you may be watching all these different troublesome incidents, but it's entertaining, right? If we were experiencing it ourselves, then because our ego's involved, then we'll be irritated. This person, that person doing this, saying that, going against us. Well, if it happened to us in real life, we'd be highly disturbed. We may be traumatized, and we had to go through therapy or whatever. But if you were watching the same thing someone else go through, then it would be entertainment, right? So what is it that makes the difference? Our own ego. So Srila Govinda Maharaj, she doesn't have any ego. And so he's observing this like some type of show, and he's not disturbed. Oh, some fresh new drama, going on, some, interesting challenge for the day. So, we can choose, how we respond to things. We have a choice, and it is our own prejudice and our own ego that causes trouble for us, right? I just had a question come in, live question. I don't know if it's supposed to be anonymous. May I ask how to understand Srimad Bhagavatam 7:125, where it's mentioned that the Supreme Lord Krishna or Vishnu doesn't get affected by anything good or bad, friendships or enemies. I read about Nrsingadev Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7. When I was reading, I get an understanding that Kali Yuga is also Krishna's pastime. Yeah, there's that verse uh, in Bhagavad Gita. I think it's in chapter 9. Oh, I don't know if I can remember it right now. Oh, I have Bhagavad Gita right here, but it's saying, Krishna's saying, Samoham sarvabhuteshu, right? I think that's how it begins. Krishna's saying, I have no friends and I have no enemies. I am neutral to everyone. But then he also adds to that, but I am moved by the affection of my devotees. That is that is of a different category, right? But what exactly is the, how can we understand, or what, Srimad Bhagavatam 7:120. Okay, I'm going to look this up very quickly. Please excuse me. 7:125. But yes, you see, because for against, this is all part of the nirguna plane, right? Friends, enemies, this is all to do with the plane of mundane duality. But when there's pure and natural affection for the Lord, that is pertaining to the nirguna plane, right? So that is of a different thing, you know. So that is something that touches Krishna. Then he loses his neutrality, we can say, you know, when it comes to his devotees. Um, so seven, I'm just looking up this verse. 7:125. I'm not sure. What is that? Canto 7, and then what is 125? I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what. But um, I'm not sure exactly what's the question here, but friends or enemies, um, he's not affected by good or bad friendships. Uh, I don't know, maybe that what I said answers. I'm not sure. It looks like they're elaborating. Canto 7, chapter 1, verse 26. Okay. Verse 20. Okay, so I think okay. Chapter 1, 26. Here it is. Tasmad vairanu bandena niraidena bayena va snehat kamena va yunjat katanchin nekshate pitak. Therefore, by enmity or by devotional service, by fear, by affection, or by lusty desire, by any of all these or any one of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same for the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. Um, yeah, it is a little bit of a curious thing here. I mean, you know, there's a similar verse which is sometimes discussed by our gurus, you know, saying that it's listing so many persons who, by their particular type of approach to Krishna, received a corresponding result, and that in a sense, you know, it's all equal. They're all connecting with Krishna. And I remember there's an example given of Kamsa, right? He's approaching Krishna. Kamsa is also, you know, Kamsa is Krishna's wicked uncle, right? In the Leela. But he's also Krishna. He wants to kill Krishna, but he's also Krishna conscious. Oh, thank you, James. He put the link in the chat here. You know, Kamsa is also Krishna conscious, right? Funnily enough, because he's always thinking about Krishna. He may be thinking about Krishna in fear, but he's thinking about Krishna and he also gains from that. That's how merciful Krishna is. So even though he's trying to kill Krishna, still thinking of Krishna has such a purifying quality. And we hear he attains a type of liberation, right? It mentions the gopis are always meditating on Krishna with love. You know, they also receive a corresponding attainment appropriate for that type of approach. So, from one perspective, you cannot compare these things, But because, the position of the gopis and their elevated love for Krishna, that's of a completely different nature and a completely different category, right? And you cannot compare that from one perspective to someone who's meditating on Krishna in fear and hatred. But from another perspective, you can say, well, they are all meditating on Krishna. They're all approaching Krishna, and Krishna is reciprocating with all of them according to the type of their approach, right? So I think it depends on the angle. I mean, like a very exclusive view is that, the devotees, the idea for the like serious, deep-hearted devotees, liberation is a terrible thing, right? So yujya mukti, right? There are five types of mukti, five types of liberation that are mentioned um, in the scriptures, and the fifth, so yujya mukti is considered very undesirable, means to merge into Krishna, right? There's the liberation where
Still
one
looks
has
pretty clean, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have to change it.
We have to
Okay.
change it anyway,
Okay.
there's
sadly.
the liberation where one has a personal relationship with Krishna, associating with him in his abode and so on. But then there's also this other type of liberation, which means to merge into the Lord. That means to merge either into his effulgence or into his body. And from one perspective, this is a very wonderful thing, right? And if someone is living a hellish life, then that's an upgrade, you can say. If someone's living a life in this demonic mentality, then for them to have a position, and we hear all the demons who attack Krishna, they achieve this position. For them to have liberation, emerging into Krishna's effulgence or body, you can see that as his mercy, right? And it's an upgrade for them. So that's one angle of vision. But another angle of vision, from the perspective of love, for them, that's the most frightening thing, to merge into Krishna. Why? Because there's no relationship possible. There's no love possible. There's no service that's possible in that relationship, right? So, it is different angles of vision. But in one sense, you could say, oh, they all attained Krishna, right? Oh, they attained Krishna, they merged into Krishna, or they're serving Krishna. Actually, there's a vast world of difference between the two. But from one perspective, you can say they're all serving Krishna, right? So I don't know if that answers this question. Okay, looks like our friend is happy. There we can also remember that verse in Bhagavad Gita, ye yatamam prapadyante tamstadaiva prajamyaham, right? That I approach persons according to how they approach me, right? I'm reciprocating with them according to the nature of their approach towards me, right? To the point where if someone wants to be an atheist, Krishna is also facilitating that. Like how magnanimous, how non-envious is Krishna? If persons want to not believe in him, he's helping them, right? He comes as Buddha, right? To preach an atheistic conception. He's also helping those people. How affectionate is he? But then you see there is a point where Krishna, leaves that aside, right? And this is discussed in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita by Kaviraj Goswami, right? In Bhagavad Gita, there's this promise for all of time, this solemn declaration of Krishna, ye yatamam prapadyante, as persons approach me, so I approach them, right? And this is like the standard procedure. And in that way, there's a neutral position in a sense, which is addressed in this question, right? As persons are coming to me, I'm coming to them. So there's this element of neutrality there. However, the story changes when it comes to a particular level of devotion, and that is represented by the Braja Gopis. right? Because their love is so pure, so elevated, so high that Krishna becomes helpless. You know, that Krishna, he's forced to admit defeat in a sense, because he says, and his feeling is that he's unable to reciprocate because their standard of love is so high and so pure that he's unable to reciprocate. And then there's this verse which is celebrated amongst the Vaishnavas, na paraye ham niravadya samyujam Swabhava Krityam, is a beautiful verse where Krishna is saying that I'm unable to reciprocate with the love of such great devotees. So may your devotion, may your service be its own reward. May it be its own reward, because I'm helpless. Even if I had, you know, I had time eternal, in order to repay you, I could not. I'm unable to. So I have to admit defeat. I have to break my promise when I'm faced with the devotion of the Braja Gopis, because it is so high, it is so exalted. So that is of a different category. That is on such a high level. Such high things we are privileged to hear about, right? To come into contact with. At least we can say we've had the privilege to hear such things and attempt to worship such things. And maybe many lifetimes from today, something may enter our heart, by the grace of Guru and Vaishnava. Suvasini Didi, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Dandavat. I'll see you
Didi.
next time. Yeah, see you
Okay.
soon.
Okay, well, I think maybe we'll wrap up there. Any last comments from anyone before we close for today? It's been such a beautiful group today. And we're all sending our prayers to Ganga Leela, or maybe she had to leave. Is she still with us? Or maybe she had to leave. She just had a serious
I'm
one.
here. Thank
You're
you very
here.
much. I
There
appreciate
you
it.
are. There you are. Okay, do you want to share anything with our group today?
My Dandavat.
We love you, Ganga Leela. You're a superstar. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your wonderful association, and I look forward to next week. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Deva Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Dakshina Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
You're all my lifeline, and it's really such a privilege. I'm still recovering from losing the association of Srila Govinda Maharaj. It's something that we can recover from over many lifetimes. But when we can have the association of such wonderful, open-hearted devotees, then we feel, like, oh, our Gurudev is living in all of them, like like we hear that Raghunath Das, of course, not to compare ourselves, but we remember the example of Raghunath Das Goswami when, after Mahaprabhu left and then Swarup Damodar left, and he felt, oh, I'm alone in this world. They were my everything. He spent 16 years in their close, constant association, intimate association. Then they left one after the other very quickly, almost the same time. And Raghunath thought, I cannot go on living in this world. And he went to Vrindavan, and he was planning to commit suicide by jumping from Govardhan Hill. But then when he got to Vrindavan, he met with Rup and Sanatan Goswami. And he felt, oh no, Mahaprabhu has not left. He's living in their hearts. And I can continue to feel, Mahaprabhu's association, through Damodara's association, through them, through their connection, through their service, and so on, So I feel the same way, Somehow or other, I've been kept in the good association of you all, and that's keeping me alive in Krishna consciousness and keeping our Gurudev, that feeling of closeness with him. So I'm very grateful to you all. Dandavat pranams. See you all.
Very grateful to you. Very, very grateful to you. Appreciative. Jai. Jai.
Jai Mata. Jai Devotee.
Dandavat.
Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai.